Hello and welcome to the Quantum Bridge with myself, Casper, and with, as ever, my co-host Gary. Hi, Gary. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. Yourself today?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm all right, thank you. I'm keen to get on because I know, as
Yes,
ever, we're up against time, and you've got us an excellent new guest. So,
I
without
have.
further ado, I'll pass across to you, mate.
Thank you very much. So, our guest today, I also met on X, like many of our other guests. So I'm going to introduce Steve to the show today. Welcome to the show, Steve. How are you doing?
Namaste. It is a privilege to be here, guys. I've always enjoyed your posts on X, and we share a lot of things in common with regards to how we think, what we're looking for in terms of a positive energy. So, yes, and I'm very
Yeah,
well. So, very pleased to be here on the show.
Welcome.
you're welcome. Yeah, I always like you say that maybe that group is growing of the more positive stuff. There's still a lot in that um, doom and gloom and fear thing, but I think we're gradually moving away from that slowly. So, and hopefully we can do more of that here. So maybe Steve, to start with, a lot of your posts are to do around the financial markets and things. Maybe you can give us a little bit of background of yourself and how you got involved in that. Is it something you've always been in? Was it like your regular work, or is this now a pastime?
Actually, I used to be in IT
Ah,
many years ago. I mean, I grew up in the Northeast up until the age of 14, 15. I left home, moved to London, and I was already in technical college, and I was studying TV and audio back then, industrial electronics. That then led me to join a microcomputer technology course at Southgate Technical College in North London, which then led me to my first IT role as a PC engineer, if you like, networking. And as technology evolved and the pressures that were there, we were taking exams. Microsoft, so I was there at the beginning of Windows, and it shows you how old I am now, doesn't it? And but I wasn't really being stimulated. I mean, IT is a great role, everybody to each to their own. But I just wasn't being stimulated. All my life, I've always felt that there's always something else there, niggling at me. I was lucky enough to join a company called CQG, and what they do is provide the financial information, the pricing, the clearing, the application to be able to trade, in an institutional banking environment or trading. They subsequently sent me to City University, and I learned technical analysis, which, if you like, is a chart representation on how to read price action,
mm,
chart patterns, identifying previous historical data to be able to identify another probable outcome. And after that, I was completely captivated. That was it. And me being a risk taker like I have been all my life, I decided to leave the company within just 18 months, dive straight into trading. I thought, this is it. You know, this is easy. I finally knew what the FTSE 100 meant, what it was. I thought, what
mm,
the hell is? I dived straight into it, and I really did have a lucky break. These people, I see a lot of people now just buying the hell out of everything.
mm.
I was doing that. It was mostly currencies at the time, one currency versus another, which is called the spot market. For example, the euro versus the USD. It's known as a spot pair. It's about 107 at the moment to the dollar. So I was trading that. I had a lucky break. Then all of a sudden, everything just went absolutely, you know, downhill.
Mm.
And I thought, well, where did I go wrong? I'm following my basic trends and everything. And it happened again, and it happened again, and it kept on happening. I
We're
kept on
more
losing.
familiar with this part ourselves.
Good point. Yeah.
But I was persistent because I have this belief that, the markets are there to show you the way, that there is some hidden code there with this crazy belief that I had. And I've always been a believer in you become what you believe. So if I believe that there is a way of identifying and protecting your risk and making money from it, then I need to find it. So I carried out a load of testing. I started to look at many asset classes. And with my belief, I then found a way on how the markets correlate with each other. For example, now, say if you see the NASDAQ falling, you can now anticipate, especially with what the Bank of Japan have recently done, they've put up rates, to see the yen lift as a safe haven. If any commodities are high, the dollar can usually be quite low. All of these correlations fitting like a jigsaw to perform a more accurate form of trading analysis, whether it be if you're hedging a trade or in a trade. And then there's the technical analysis side of it, which is trend analysis. You see a price break, you want to know where that target is going. You always need to know and already have had all of your chart representation already plotted, regardless of the news flow. News flow being the fundamental analysis that comes through today's employment figures, for example, the non-farm payrolls in the US, or the consumer price index, or manufacturing data, or interest rates. And with all of that, you then test it. So I started to test it, and I could not believe how quickly things were able to turn around. But bear in mind the testing phase and all of the losing phase. And I've revisited those dark days along the way, trust me, even not so long ago. This is the thing about the path of success. You do revisit those dark days. And what it does is it just keeps on teaching you. You're learning so many new things about yourself. Because over these years, when I was losing money and I was believing in something else, I started to look more inward. But I was lucky enough to meet a Buddhist monk. I spent so much time with him, and he was teaching me mindfulness meditation. And so I practiced that on a daily basis. What I started to realize with trading, whatever you're seeing on the screen comes from already what you're believing in. It's only going to reflect your own level of belief and perception. That's what's crazy about it. If you really believe it's going to go up, you will find a reason for the market to show you that you may be right. But the interesting thing is, when you close out a bad trade, this is how powerful perception is, and you're experiencing some form of anxiety, you close out that bad trade only then because there's no emotional attachment to that trade anymore. You can see why you were wrong in the first place. The market then shows you, and it kind of winks at you and says, I told you, you know, there's a lot of traders who said, why don't I just do the opposite of what I think I was going to do? And that doesn't work. It really doesn't work. It'll catch you up.
You'd still get the same outcome. I love this area, Steve. By the way, I'm really enjoying listening to you and you taking us through sort of your history and sort of embodying that as well. I love the way that this is sort of coming from you on many different levels. And for me, something that jumps out is this whole aspect of refinement. So refinement of ourselves in the sort of alchemical sense, and refinement of your model, the continued external, quote unquote, external refinement of a model versus the reflection of that refinement on the internal, i.e., with it going in, as you said. And I've never really thought about it quite in that way or heard it expressed in quite that way. And I'm finding that aspect of it fascinating.
Thank you, and I appreciate that comment. Yeah, I started digging in deeper after the time I spent with the Buddhist monk, because he reminded me on a daily basis. I spent 6 months with him and became very close friends. That everything that you see and feel is only a collection of beliefs. You're in charge of your external world in a sense, but you have to feel it as well. So with the trading, I recognized my areas of weaknesses and where they could come from and what traumas I may have experienced when I was young and my relationship with money. It took me a very long time to remain consistent. And even though I've revisited those dark days, I've recognized the only time when I did was when my energy space was low, when I was in a low vibration. When I was in a high vibration, everything became clear to me. In fact, the trading aspect became so easy to find a very good trading opportunity. But when you're in a low vibration and you're not feeling good, you're not sleeping well, because that will affect your vibration. If you're not looking after yourself, if you're not exercising. So I went down the path of making sure that I work out every day, which I do, a self-analysis on all my nutrition, making sure that I do my meditation, making sure that I always have at least a 15 to 20-minute window of analysis before I place the trade, because I recognized I was very impulsive, and then being impulsive can cause so many problems. And then there's an attachment to a trade, not wanting to close it, even at a small loss. It's so psychological trading. It's a real mind job, It can either make you or break you, and it becomes more that than the money aspect, because then you start to look more inward. You start to see charts everywhere in the street, you start to recognize potential changes even in other humans. The charts themselves even tell you can feel the fear or the greed, So it just exponentially just blew up from there. And then I went down this route of self-development, and it was incredible. And there's no turning back. So in a way, and maybe the trading aspect was only there for me to start to look inward and learn more about myself and why I'm here as a human being.
It's a funny point, because if you're chasing value, this whole thing of what is value and what truly has value. And to begin with, when we go into these things, whether it be the crypto space or into trading or futures or whatever aspect of that thing of going after wealth or going after perhaps money, perhaps currency, and so on, isn't it beautiful how it pivots? And what it's actually showing us is, what is it you really value? Because you chase the money to the point where you realize that actually something else is emerging here, which is that whole alchemical aspect of, no, there's something far more precious at work here, which is an understanding of who and what we are. And actually this representation, which is only particularly given fiat currency at the moment. Anyway, this aspect of looking at something that really ultimately can't give you almost anything, versus this amazing value of understanding how the universe ticks, how other people tick, and most importantly, probably how we tick. It's such a wonderful thing of going in. Maybe many people would see that as an area that we get into because of our own greed in the first place anyway. And we're shown that, there's a very different aspect to this as well, despite things like the sort of fear and greed indexes and whatever else. All the other manifestations are good fun. But I'm really glad that you're going into the area that's less about, I had a system and the system worked and sometimes it didn't work, and there was some insider information that came along, because that often seems to be how people who stayed in trading, often when I listen to them, actually, it's not that they became incredibly smart or incredibly insightful. It's they just stayed in the game long enough to hear something or pick up on something that was a bit of a inside a piece of action. Then they suddenly made a lot of money, and that was really it. Whereas this is about a journey that will last forever.
Absolutely. No, I love those comments, Casper. They really are quite something. I mean, it really is strange. You become a better trader the more grateful you are, because if you're grateful for every penny that you make, suddenly the market then rewards you with more opportunities. And if you really do genuinely believe, I love the affirmation, I'm always at the right place at the right time. That requires some patience. It's like if you're sending out a message to the universe and you truly, truly believe it's going to happen, you can even feel it, because you can't just sit on the sofa and hope for the best. I'm thinking about it, I believe it's going to happen, but you have to feel it. Then somehow a circumstance or event is going to join you. But for that to happen, it does require other human beings for that to happen. We're still living in that physical world, but it does happen. And then nevertheless, it will happen at the right time. So,
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
there seems to be a space where I don't want to speak for Casper as well. I will, because we talk about it a lot. But this space, we'll talk to each other and we're like, we can feel it, and it's not quite there. We do a lot more in the sort of digital asset sort of market. I don't know, do you dabble in that much, Steve, or is it more just traditional stock market and commodities and things?
I do look at commodities like crude oil, gold. You may have seen it on my posts, but my baby, as it were, is the foreign exchange spot market. So I look at that on a technical perspective. I look at interest rate changes, anticipated economic models, and obviously how they correlate with each other to identify some movement or changes in the market over a longer period of time. I don't trade too much now these days. To be honest with you, I'll probably never get away from trading.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I do admit,
That,
I think I'm still, it's become an addiction, and I still need to work on that, because I get excited Monday to Friday.
that thing of pattern recognition, though, just coming back to that, and the whole thing, this does bring up the thought in me of the sort of microcosm and the macrocosm, i.e., what we see expressed in these various financial worlds is, on some level at least, one, a reflection of our internal state. And I absolutely take that point and concur with that. But also on that sort of, so within and without, and the mirroring of that, the markets themselves and what we see as the sort of 3D ramifications of those, it must be some form of microcosm or mirroring of the macro, of the universe, or multiverses, or whatever we're now understanding. It's much more than even many of us probably thought it was. So I think there's a beauty in saying that you will never stop, because I don't think we're meant to. I mean, that feels to me like the journey is the journey. And there's something wonderful in the idea of us not stopping anymore.
Definitely. Well, I've learned so much from it, though. I question myself more from the trading aspect than any other part of my life. It really is remarkable. So now I don't think I would ever stop doing it. And I always see the profitability, any money that you make from it, as a byproduct. It's not the reason why you're doing it. And I think when you apply that to anything in any industry, and especially it's something that you're extremely passionate about, then the rewards will always come. So many people quit too early. And when I say too early, only a few years in. But we can always be a little bit too impatient, can't we? We're quite primitive as human beings, aren't we, really?
Yeah. I know impatience, yeah. Because I've only been, I didn't know, I still don't really know anything about the stock market. It was only really around that sort of 2020 time when everything started changing. I was going down more rabbit holes, and I learned about this sort of the crypto type of thing. And I thought, well, let's have a dabble in this and see where it takes us. And yeah, it's a game of patience. I found because, like you say, I'm more impulsive. Well, I'm bored of that one. Let's get rid of that and let's move this here, move that there, and then it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And now I'm just like, just leave it alone. Just stop meddling. So yeah, I'm kind of like at that point at the minute. But I was wondering, Steve, is this on your account, an insightful market flow principle, right? I've said that correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you finding this all now? Do your principles in this sort of time of transition, are they still sort of working, or is it a little bit harder to read at the moment, or is it just same as usual?
In terms of what would you say it's harder to read in terms
Like what you're
of?
saying with the currencies, and you said there's these principles that if the commodities go up and the dollar goes down, and all these,
Oh, yes.
that there's just still the same old thing, is it going on?
Well, actually, pre-2008, it was crystal clear. And the last 5 years, there was a lot of disconnect and a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, people with less knowledge would have made more money than the guys who had more knowledge, because they're used to seeing a system which then became so disconnected. They look for these abnormalities or accuracies, which are all over the place. Then just a new guy comes in and just buys the hell out of everything, makes a load of money, and then all suddenly he's the new guru, you know? So it can really mess with your head. But it's the longevity that matters. But right now, things are starting to fit in like a jigsaw again, once again, especially the recent weeks I've noticed. It's becoming a little bit more easier now. Sometimes you just have to forgive yourself and give yourself more time. Trading will remind you that, remember when you placed that trade, closed it so early, like months ago. If you left it, this is where it would be now. You wouldn't have to do anything. So it's always trying to stay in the moment with everything, feeling really good, enjoying yourself about it, taking your time. I find if you slow down, this is with anything, you can achieve much more, much faster. It's this illusion that you have to do things quickly. Nonsense, right? It is an illusion, right?
Yeah. Well, that's a level of higher learning, actually. It's less about what you're learning in terms of what you're taking in, and it's more about this revealing aspect of understanding notions, higher notions, really, those like true patience, reflection, and even just that whole area of going inwards and checking in with yourself and with your center. And I think probably that even with my limited trading stuff, which is mainly around cryptos and is tiny, it wouldn't even register, I'm sure, in your world, Steve. But the size of those trades is actually irrelevant, because, as you pointed out, it's so much more to do with the emotion involved and the management of that emotion, that actually, whether you're talking about a few pence here and there, or you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars or euros or pounds, the emotional context and the chemical activity that goes along with that is the same, because it's this, coming back to your thing about being human and sort of the human experience, we have these amazing highs and lows and these knee-jerk reactions to things that even if you sat back for a few seconds, never mind a few minutes or a few hours, or slept on things for a few days, it's amazing how much we are drawn in to taking action in the moment, when all we have to do is actually just step back, and take that slightly longer view. And I think it's very, very nice to have somebody come on and be willing, actually, to be that open about their own journey, their own internal journey, because actually that's it's very noble to come and do that, because it's enabling me to say that I've had those same highs and lows, and that I'm not there yet. You know, I often make exactly the same mistake again.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's been a hell of a journey, but it's one that I would never want to change because all of the benefits that comes with it, the self-reflection, it's been probably the most difficult journey that I've ever been on my entire life. And I even went through bankruptcy because of it, you know? And even that taught me a lot about relationships and myself in many aspects. It really does, you know, how you see the world. At first, it can be very painful. Then you start to realize actually you're in charge how you react to any event.
Well, that's all you're in charge of.
That's all exactly. To any external event, you can either look at it like, oh, what's happening to me, instead of what can I learn from this? And then suddenly the latter takes you out of any form of victim mentality. And what that then does is start to raise your vibration. When you raise your vibration, you then start to find answers to carry you forward. But if you stay in a low vibration, that period of transition is going to take much longer. You may then, you know, reflect that negative energy to your loved ones or friends, and they may never understand where it's coming from. It really is fascinating.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we only have a few minutes left, unbelievably. I don't know if you can fit it in a couple of minutes, Steve. Any advice for somebody who does want to start in this? Is it, you know, just start small? And because I think like Casper was saying, you can learn the same things. You don't have to put in loads of money, or, you know, just have a little play around and learn. How do you feel about that if somebody wanted to have a quick go?
Yeah, I would try not to follow these people on X with huge amount of followers promising 100% a week. You know, you have to look at this more realistically. There's some really good books out there. One's called The Tao Theory, and it's like the Bible of technical analysis, and it mentions a lot about fundamentals. It's a good starting point, but there are a lot of good books out there, and there's a lot of good stuff on YouTube and on the internet. But I recommend that you have to show some interest in the markets themselves, how they move with geopolitics, and show some interest with it. It's not just about making the money. Look and dig deeper into why you might want to start trading in the first place. That's where the answer is. But that's what I would suggest. Start slowly, start plotting, and always start with a test account, you know, demo money, and then move towards putting some money in with a reputable broker. But that's what I would do. And remember, it's a very long journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very sage advice. Thank you, Steve.
Right. So we'll put all the details where people can find you in the description below. In your X account, if you don't mind, if that's okay.
No, I really appreciate it, guys. I really enjoyed the chat.
Yeah, because I enjoy your posts. So it's great, you know. And hopefully we'll come and join us again sometime, because we didn't get time to go into your music career. We need to hear about that.
Yeah, that would be lovely, actually, if you would. Yeah.
We'll
You would
touch on
absolutely love that
time.
one, guys. You would love it. I can't wait to be able to share that story,
Yeah.
because it does interlink with the one we've just
Of
got
course.
into.
Yes.
It does, yeah.
So we'll start with that next time.
You bet.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Steve.
Appreciate it,
Yeah,
guys.
have a great weekend. Thank you, Steve.
You too. All the best. Have a good one. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.